We are live. Well, welcome back everyone to the stream. I'm going to be doing some more of CodeCademy, learning how to code with JavaScript. Last time, which was Monday, last time we did this, we did the intro to creating video games with phaser.js, and we basically took a look at the very basic structure of JavaScript, how to console log. We didn't even get to conditionals, just the very bare bones of Java. But now we are going to go into conditionals and do a project or two about those. Let me make sure everything is looking good from a viewer's perspective. Looks good. Stream is going just fine. All right, an if statement. We often perform a task based on a condition. For example, if the weather is nice today, then we'll go outside. If the alarm clock rings, then we'll shut it off. If we're tired, then we'll go to sleep. In programming, we can also perform a task based on a condition using an if statement. If something is true, then you console log this message will print, and the result is this message will print. Notice in the example above that we have an if statement. The if statement is composed of the if keyword, followed by a set of parentheses, which is followed by a code block or block statement, indicated by a set of curly braces. Inside the parentheses, a condition is provided that evaluates to true or false. If the condition evaluates to true, the code inside the curly braces runs or executes. If the condition evaluates to false, the block won't execute. Let's make an if statement. All right, using the let keyword, which we learned last time, declare a variable named sale. Assign the value of true to it. So if I remember correctly, just type in let, they want it to be named sale, and we're going to set it to a boolean, which is just a true or false value of true. And with CodeCademy, if you weren't here last time, with CodeCademy you can, well, they give you the check marks on the side that show you for each step if you've completed it correctly, and they'll give you a little hint if you haven't. Now create an if statement. Provide the if statement a condition of sale. Inside the code block of the if statement, console log the string time to buy. So on the second line here, we do the if keyword, and then we do the parentheses of true, or this is the condition of sale. So if sale is true, that's what it's checking. Do the curly braces, and then just console log time to buy in a string like so. Buy. Okay, let's see if that's what they wanted. Time to buy. There we go. Notice that the code inside the if statement ran since time to buy was logged to the console. Below the sale variable declaration, but before the if statement, reassign sale to false. Run your code and observe what happens. We'll be changing this behavior in the next exercise. So for the last step, they want us to basically reference the variable we created and then change the value of it to the opposite, change it to false, and then below the declaration of this, we copy the code that we did, copy the conditional down, and see what happens. So we changed the value to false, but yet when we, and then when we console logged it, it noticed that this value was false instead of true, so therefore it did not console log anything, which is what we should expect. Cool. If else statements. In the previous exercise, we used an if statement that checked a condition to decide whether or not to run a block of code. In many cases, we have a code we want to run if our condition evaluates to false. If we want to add some default behavior to the if statement, we can add an else statement to run a block of code when the condition evaluates to false. Take a look at the inclusion of an else statement. If false, console log this, else console log this. So it evaluates false to false, and therefore it skips this line of code and runs the else statement instead. An else statement must be paired with an if statement, and together they are referred to as an if-else statement. In the example above, the else statement uses the else keyword following the code block of an if statement, has a code block that is wrapped by a set of curly braces, and the code inside the else statement code block will execute when the if statement's condition evaluates to false. If else statements allow us to automate solutions yes to yes or no questions, also known as binary decisions. It's always very important to keep these vocabulary terms memorized, because once they introduce them, then they start using them frequently. Add an else statement to the existing if statement inside the code block of the else statement. Console log the string time to wait for a sale. So inside of this, yes, or actually it is after the braces, which contains the code that runs if the if statement is true or evaluates the true. We'll go ahead and put else in curly braces and then console log time to wait for a sale. Wait for a sale. I don't know how they ended that. How did they end that? Just a period. Time to wait for a sale. So in the rest of it, they assigned the sale variable to true, then assigned it to false, then ran the if statement. The if statement saw that the sale evaluated to a Boolean of false. So then it didn't run the first line of code, and instead it ran the second under the else statement. So the else statement is kind of like a default if whatever the if statement is checking evaluates to false, it'll run the else condition. Comparison operators. When writing conditional statements, sometimes we need to use different types of operators to compare values. These operators are called comparison operators. Here is a list of some handy comparison operators and their syntax. Less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or is equal to, is not equal to. Comparison operators compare the value on the left with the value on the right. For instance, 10 is less than 12 evaluates to true. It can be helpful to think of comparison statements as questions. When the answer is yes, the statement evaluates to true, and when the answer is no, the statement evaluates to false. The code above would be asking, is 10 less than 12? Well, yes, so 10 less than 12 equals to true. We can also use comparison operators on different data types, like strings. Apples is equal to oranges is false. In the example above, we are using the identity operator, which is 3 equal sign, to check if the string apples is the same as the string oranges. Since the two strings are not the same, the comparison statement evaluates to false. All comparison statements evaluate to either true or false and are made up of two values that will be compared, and an operator that separates the values and compares them accordingly. Let's practice using these comparison operators. All right, using the let's create a variable named hunger level instead of equal to 7. So let hunger level equal 7. Write an if-else statement using a comparison operator. The condition should check if hunger level is greater than 7. If so, the conditional statement should log time to eat. Otherwise, it should log we can eat later. After you press run, play around with the condition by tweaking the comparison of hunger level by using different operators, such as the other ones that they listed. Okay, so if I should check if hunger level is greater than 7. Hunger level greater than 7. If it is, we should log time to eat, so console log time to eat. And then if not, we'll add in an else statement. Else statement, we can eat later. Oh, and I need to put the quotation marks around time to eat in order to make it a proper string, instead of trying to refer to a variable that does not exist. Console.log we can eat later. Okay, that looks good. After you press run, play around. Okay, so let's check it. We can eat later. There we go. Its hunger level was not greater than 7, so it ran the else statement and ignored the if statement. So after you press run, let's play around with the other operators, the comparison of this. So let's say, let's actually change the number first. So let's change it to 6, and then it should run time to eat. And let's change it back to 7 and use the triple equal signs. Triple equals, time to eat, because it is equal 7. We can check to see if it's not equal to 7. It is. So since it is equals to 7, it ignores the if statement, checking to see if it's not equal to 7, and instead runs the else statement. If we change that number to anything other than 7, then it will run time to eat. Okay? Logical operators. Working with conditionals means that we will be using booleans, true or false values. In JavaScript, there are operators that work with boolean values known as logical operators. We can use logical operators to add more sophisticated logic to our conditionals. There are 3 logical operators: the AND operator, the OR operator, and the NOT operator, otherwise known as the BANG operator. When we use the AND operator, we are checking to see that 2 things are true. If the stoplight is green and pedestrians equals 0, then we will console log go. If both of those are not true, or one of those is not true, we will console log stop. When using the AND operator, both conditions must evaluate to true for the entire condition to evaluate to true and execute. Otherwise, if either condition is false, the AND condition will evaluate to false, and the else block will execute. So in the example that they gave, in a real-world situation, if you saw that the stoplight was red, even if the street was clear, you would stop. If the stoplight was green, but there were pedestrians in the crosswalk, you would also stop, hopefully. So that's kind of what's running in that situation, theoretically what's running in our minds, to either follow the stoplight or be careful of the pedestrians in the street. So the only way that we go is if both of these conditions are true. If we only care about either condition being true, we can use the OR operator, which is two pipes. So if the day equals Saturday or the day equals Sunday, console log enjoy the weekend. Else, if either of those is not, or wait, no, this is the OR. So if one of those, at least one of those is true, it'll console log enjoy the weekend. If both of them aren't true, if both of them are false, then it'll console log do some work. When using the OR operator, only one of the conditions must evaluate to true for the overall statement to evaluate to true. In the code example above, either day is equal to Saturday or day is equal to Sunday evaluates to true. The ifs condition will evaluate to true, and its code block will execute. If the first condition in an OR statement evaluates to true, the second condition won't even be checked. Only if day is equal to Saturday evaluates to false will day equals to Sunday be evaluated. The code in the else statement above will execute only if both comparisons evaluate to false. The NOT operator reverses or negates the value of a Boolean. So let excited equal true if in console log not excited prints false. Let sleepy equal false, console log not sleepy equals true. Essentially, the NOT operator will either take a true value and pass it back as false, or take a false value and pass it back as true. Logical operators are often used in conditional statements to add another layer of logic to our code. In main.js, there are 2 variables, mood and tiredness level. Let's create an if-else statement that checks if mood is sleepy and tiredness level is greater than 8. If both conditions evaluate to true, then console log the string time to sleep. Otherwise, we should console log not bedtime yet. After you press run, play around with the OR operator and the NOT operator. Okay, so we've got our mood variable set to sleepy, tiredness level set to 6. So let's do the if statement. if, and we want the mood is sleepy and tiredness level is greater than 8. So mood, so we want mood, triple equal sign. I'll go ahead and put spaces in between just that it's a little easier to read for now. Sleepy. And then we put 2. There we go. What are these called again? What are these characters called again? I forget. They're not ampersands because that's the at symbol. I forget what these are called. Anyway, and the tiredness level equals, or is greater than 8. Is greater than 8. Okay. Then we'd run a console log of time to sleep. And then after this, we'd put down an else statement saying that if either of those is false, we would run this log instead. Not bedtime yet. Not bedtime yet. All right, let's see how that goes. Not bedtime yet. That worked out because the mood is sleepy. However, the tiredness level is not above 8. So it is not bedtime yet, according to our little if statement. Let's go ahead and change the operators. Let's see if the OR operator, what that does. Have the 2 pipes in. And the pipes are above the backslash on the keyboard. Like above the return key. All right, let's try the OR. Time to sleep. So this one saw that the mood was indeed sleepy and that the tiredness level, it didn't even evaluate the tiredness level. It just saw that the mood was sleepy and then said, okay, at least one of those conditions is true. Therefore, we'll console log what's here. If we said like the mood was awake, right? Or alert, maybe, alert. And then ran it, since both conditions are indeed false, it skips the statement, goes to the else statement, and runs that code. But we can switch that back to sleepy and see what the not operator does. Let's see, what happens if you negate the value of the entire statement with a not and switch to or instead of and? So can I just put a not operator right there? Not to the entire statement. If the mood is not sleepy and the tiredness level is greater than, okay, not bedtime yet. Interesting, yeah. Interesting. So with this, it would be evaluating the mood first, seeing that the mood is indeed sleepy. And then tiredness level is greater than 8. I wonder what happens if you put it here as well. I don't know if it's evaluating. No, it's evaluating that the same. I'm trying to understand this completely. So it's looking at if the mood is not sleepy, right? Mood is not sleepy. That evaluates to false because the mood is sleepy, right? Then it's looking at if the tiredness level is not greater than 8, and it is, and this is actually true, that it is not greater than 8. So therefore I would think that it would run the time to sleep, but I'm not sure I'm putting this in the correct place. Not sleepy. Yeah, in the examples they don't really show how you do it within a conditional statement if you have like, because I don't know if this is affecting, if the not operator is affecting everything in here. Let me try to do it only on the one side. So time to sleep. Okay, so it sees that the mood is sleepy and then says that it's time to sleep. And doesn't even evaluate the second part. But with this, it says that the mood, check to see if the mood is not equal to sleepy. and if it's not greater than 8. This evaluates to false. This evaluates to true, though, because it is not greater than 8. Not sure about that one. Not greater than 8. Let me see what it does just with that code, without the and, without the or operators. If it is not greater than 8, it still evaluates to false. That's weird. Because if we say, oh, we have to do we have to do this sort of thing? Like it's the equal sign and greater? Try that one. Yeah, I didn't think so, because that's going to assign it or try to put it into a function, like an arrow function. No, yeah, it should just be the greater than symbol. But that still evaluates to false. Not tiredness level. Now, if we change this position, if we change the position of the not operator and put it on 8, then it works. Because it's saying that, yeah, okay, I get it. I get it now. Because it's negating the the variable itself. So it's saying like, so if whatever is not tiredness level, which could be any other variable that you could think of, so it's basically evaluating something that doesn't exist, so it's just saying that it's false. So back to what we had before with not, the mood is not sleepy. This is actually evaluating mood and saying like if not mood, which who knows what that is, it's just evaluating something that doesn't exist. If not mood equals sleepy. Let's go ahead and put the not operator at the string, see what that does. Not bedtime yet. Yeah, let's see if it's not sleepy. Right, because that would evaluate to false, the first part of it. And then the second part would also evaluate to false. Interesting. All right, truthy and falsy. Let's consider how non-Boolean data types like strings or numbers are evaluated when checked inside a condition. Sometimes you'll want to check if a variable exists and you won't necessarily want it to be equal to a specific value. You'll only check to see if the variable has been assigned a value. For example, let my variable equal I exist. If my variable is evaluating to truthy, console log my variable, else console log the variable does not exist. The code block in the if statement will run because my variable has a truthy value. Even though the value of my variable is not explicitly the value true, when used in a Boolean or conditional context, it evaluates to true because it has been assigned a non-falsy value. So which values are falsy or evaluate to false when checked as a condition? The list of falsy values includes 0, empty strings, null, undefined, or not a number. Here's an example with numbers. Let number of apples equal 0. If number of apples, console log let us eat apples, else console log no apples left. The condition evaluates to false because the value of number of apples is 0. Since 0 is a falsy value, the code block in else statement will run. So if you set a variable equal to 0, you're automatically, the Boolean of this, or I guess not the Boolean, it's a non-Boolean, right? This kind of a variable, right, or this kind of a value is falsy. Same thing if you put an empty string there, just two empty quotation marks, null, undefined, etc. That evaluates the falsy, so the if statement looks at that and then doesn't run, or the if conditional looks at that and then doesn't run the if statement, so it runs the else statement instead. So prints no apples left in that example. Okay. Change the value of word count so that it is truthy. This value should still be a number. After you make this change, run your code. Great, you've started your work, should log to the console. Okay, so let's just change the word count up the top here to 4,200. Say you wrote a short story. Great, you started your work. This string doesn't seem to be empty. Change the value of favorite phrase so that it is still a string but is falsy. After you make this change and run your code, this string is definitely empty, should log to the console. Okay, before we go on to that, let's just double check the first part. And so with the word count, we change it to a truthy value. So this statement, if word count, now sees this variable as containing a truthy value. So it runs this line of code, console log. Great, you've started your work. And when we put this back to a falsy value, it will run the else statement attached to that. So let's put that back to what we had it. CodeCademy is giving me a hint about the second part, because after you complete the one step and if you make a change to the code and run it again, it'll check it and say, hey, you haven't done the second part, so what's up, dude? Well, we'll go ahead and do that. So they wanted us to change the favorite phrase variable, which is down here, from hello world to a falsy value. Falsy value is going to be an empty string. This string is definitely empty. So the way that the console printed this was that after it checked the favorite phrase, it saw that that value was falsy, so it ignored this console log and skipped to the else statement and ran this console log instead. This string is definitely, most assuredly, empty. Truthy and falsy assignment. Truthy and falsy evaluations open a world of shorthand possibilities. Say you have a website and you want to take a user's username to make a personalized greeting. Sometimes the user does not have an account, making the username variable falsy. The code below checks if username is defined and assigns a default string, if it is not. If you combine your knowledge of logical operators, you can use a shorthand for the code above. In a Boolean condition, JavaScript assigns the truthy value to a variable if you use the OR operator in your assignment. So in the first example, they show let username equal an empty string, and they also declare a default name variable. If the username is a value of any kind, then the default name will equal username. Else the default name equals stranger. So then when you console log default name, since nothing was put into the string of username, the default name equals stranger. So this prints stranger. So that's running the else statement here because the username evaluated to falsy. So in the second example, they say let username be an empty string, let default name equal username or stranger. So console log default name prints stranger. So that's a shortcut way of, instead of having to print the conditional there, having to type that out, you just put an OR operator, and then what it will do is it'll check the username, and if this evaluates to a truthy, then it will print that. If not, then it will just print stranger, based off of the rule that we learned earlier, which was that with the OR operators, if the first part of it's true, it doesn't even look at the second part. So if the left-hand side of this evaluates to true, it will completely ignore stranger, and it will just assign default name to the username. Because OR statements check, this is just reiteration of what I just said. Because OR statements check the left-hand condition first, the variable will be assigned the actual value of username if it is truthy, and be assigned the value of stranger if the username is falsy. This concept is also known as short circuit evaluation. So just keep that in mind for like OR statements. Okay, so let's use short circuit evaluation to assign a value to writing utensil. Do not edit tool yet. We'll return to tool in the next step. Okay, assign writing utensil the value of tool, And if tool is falsy, assign a default value of pen. Okay, so let's see. Let writing utensil equal tool or two pipes or pen. And then both of these need to be, well, pen needs to be a string, so it will actually print that. And then tool, if it's true, will print its own string referencing the tool variable. Writing utensil. Oh, wait a second. Let's use assign a value to writing. Oh, I guess it already wrote that. I didn't even notice. It already wrote declared the variable down here. So let's just change that there, right? Utensil, and run that code, see what happens. The pen is mightier than the sword. It is indeed mightier than the sword. Notice that the text, the pen is mightier than the sword, logged to the console, which means the value of writing utensil is indeed pen. What if we reassign the value of tool to marker? Let's see what happens. Okay, so let's change the variable of tool in the top from an empty string to marker, changing it from a falsy value to a truthy value, and voila, the marker is mightier than the sword. We could do like the pool noodle. The pool noodle is indeed mightier than the sword. You can put anything there that suits your fancy. The ternary operator. In the spirit of using shorthand syntax, we can use a ternary operator to simplify an if-else statement. Take a look at the if-else statement example. Let is nighttime equal true. If it is nighttime, console log turn on the lights, else console log turn off the lights. We can use a ternary operator to perform the same functionality. Is nighttime, looking at that variable, question mark, console log, which that question mark, that little question mark is the ternary operator. Console log turn on the lights, console, and then this bit is the other part of the ternary operator, the colon. Console log turn off the lights. In the example above, the condition is nighttime is provided before the question mark. Two expressions follow the question mark and are separated by a colon. If the condition evaluates the true, the first expression executes, and if the condition evaluates the false, the second expression executes. Like if-else statements, ternary operators can be used for conditions which evaluate to true or false. So it's just another shorthand way of writing a conditional statement with the question mark and the colon. Refactor or edit the first if-else block to a ternary operator. All right, so we've got is locked equals false. This is evaluating is locked. If it is true, then it will console log this, and if it is false, then it will console log this. So at the moment, it's going to console log the else statement. But what they want us to do is change it to a ternary operator. So let's refactor some of this. So we need the is locked, question mark is going to come there. And then this, we don't need the semicolon at the beginning, I don't believe. Yeah, it's just the first statement. So basically inside a ternary operator, the question mark begins the if statement. If the if condition is true, then it will run that line of code after the question mark. And then the colon is acting as the else statement of the ternary operator. And I believe that's all we need. Looks correct. You will not need a key to open the door. Correct. Okay, refactor the second if-else statement to use a ternary operator. All right, same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all the parentheses and curly braces we don't need. Let's get rid of all of those. Get rid of the else. We don't need the else. we can just get rid of the semicolon there, put in a colon, and then just like that. So this sort of a thing, this ternary operator can condense your code from, I think that was like 3 or 4 lines to 1. And with simple conditionals, it's really handy. Sometimes I prefer the other way, just because if it's like a very complex conditional, that I just like seeing it all line by line, but you could theoretically do it in one block like that too. So let's do that. Let's see if we, didn't break anything. And let's refactor the third one. That's all that they want us to do here. So let's see. Oh, but this one. So this one is using, okay, so we need to see, evaluate that. So the first part is the if conditional, what it's actually checking before the question mark. After the question mark, it's what it is going to run if that condition is true. And then after the colon is what it runs if that condition is false. Just like that, and then let's get rid of that semicolon there, we don't need that. There we go. And that's how you refactor simple blocks of conditional code into the ternary operator shorthand. Else if statements. We can add more conditions to our if-else with an else-if. The else-if statement allows for more than 2 possible outcomes. You can add as many else-if statements as you'd like to make more complex conditionals. The else-if statement always comes after an if statement and before an else statement. The else-if statement also takes a condition. Let's take a look at the syntax. So in their example, they have let stoplight equal yellow. If the stoplight equals red, then you stop. Else, if the stoplight equals yellow, then you console log slow down. Else, if the stoplight equals green, console log go. Else, console log caution unknown. So if the stoplight is completely broken, you'd log this. If the else if statement allows you to have multiple possible outcomes. If, else statements are read from top to bottom. So the first condition that evaluates to true from the top to bottom is the block that gets executed. In the example above, since stoplight is equal to red, evaluates to false, and stoplight is equal to yellow, evaluates to true, the code inside the first else if statement is executed. The rest of the conditionals are not evaluated. If none of the conditionals evaluates to true, then the code in the else statement would have executed. So each of these else if statements, and they've explained it in other words. In other words, these are acting as additional if statements. So it's looking to see if a value is true inside of those. And then you still only have one part of the code that's looking to see if that statement was false under the else, and then running the code inside of the else block. All right, let's create a program that keeps track of the way the environment changes with the seasons. Write a conditional statement to make this happen. In the JavaScript console main.js, there is already an if-else statement in place. Let's add an else-if statement that checks if season is equal to winter. Inside the code block of the else-if statement, add a console log that prints the string, "It's winter, everything is covered in snow." Make sure that the structure uses if, else if, and else. Okay, so season is equal to winter. Need to add an else if in here. So at the top they had a variable declared as summer. If, and then a conditional statement, if season is equal to spring, checking to see if that's true, console log this, else console log the invalid season. So what we'll do is add in an else if statement and console log. Oh, and this is supposed to check, getting ahead of myself here, this is supposed to check something. This else if is supposed to check to see if the season is equal to winter, and that is the string of winter. to remember those quotation marks there. Console log. Within the else if statement, it's winter, everything is covered in snow. Oh, and they actually show, so inside of a string, if you want to add in an apostrophe as part of, you know, a contraction as part of the word, you have to put in a backslash and then an apostrophe. If you don't do that, then it will think that what you're, like if I did just, you know, it's, right? Then it'll be confused, because then it doesn't know that, like if I try to do, let's do that. So it thinks that the it is all that you're wanting to print from, you know, from that string. And then basically, yeah, you won't print an apostrophe. So the only way to print an apostrophe within a string is to do that backslash and then an apostrophe. And that way everything else will be kept as a part of that string. And then let's see, so it's winter, everything is covered in snow. Okay. Okay. Make sure, okay, so that's all good. Looking good, let's run that. Invalid season. Well, that's actually fine because the season was summer. So, so it looked at spring, it looked at winter, and saw that, well, there's nothing there, so those are both false. So obviously it is an invalid season. Add another else if statement that checks if season is equal to fall. So what we're going to do is add another of these, but I'm going to speed up the process and just copy the code into here and instead change this to fall. And then it's fall, leaves are falling, leaves are falling. And then they want this as an exclamation point. Oh, what do we got here? Oh, you know what? We don't have another curly brace. We need another curly brace here. Yeah, one thing with the CodeCademy, and I don't know if this is just like built into CodeCademy or if it's like built into JavaScript itself, but if you click on one of the curly braces or say one of the parentheses, it'll show you its pair. So you click on the curly brace and then down below you can see the pair. So what the right hand side of it, if it doesn't have a pair, it doesn't have a match, then it will not show you anything, and when you click near it, it won't highlight at all. So that's kind of how you can tell if you're missing something in the code and you've got this really long conditional, all sorts of curly braces, all sorts of functions, you don't know what you're missing. One thing you can do is go through and check to see that all your braces, all your parentheses have a pair, have a match. So yeah, so let's put that back, put that curly brace back, and now the code should run just fine. Yes, again, it's looking at summer, and since we haven't coded that yet, it still says invalid season. Add a final else if statement to check if the season is equal to summer. All right, so same thing. Let's take the else if statement. Let's make sure that we grab that last curly brace and put it down here. And let's actually copy that and put it right here. Else if, else, change this to summer. Summer, it's sunny and warm because it's summer. Sunny and warm because it's, and once again, with the contraction, we have to do a backslash apostrophe. It's summer. Sunny and warm because it's summer. Get rid of this, add in the quotation mark and the parenthesis. Run this line of code. There we are. So it's sunny and warm because it's summer. Then, they don't have us do this, they don't instruct us to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and change this bit to spring. It's spring, the trees are budding. Go ahead and check every season, make sure that the code is running fine. good. Winter looks good. Let's check fall. There we go. The switch keyword. Else-if statements are a great tool if we need to check multiple conditions. In programming, we often find ourselves needing to check multiple values and handling each of them differently. For example, let grocery item equal papaya. If the grocery item is equal to tomato, console log this. If it's equal to papaya, console log this, else console log that. In the code above, we have a series of conditions checking for a value that matches the grocery item variable. Our code works fine, but imagine if we needed to check 100 different values. Having to write that many else-if statements sounds like a pain. So this is where the switch statement provides an alternative syntax that is easier to read and write. A switch statement looks like this. So let grocery item equal papaya. Switch, that's the keyword. Grocery item. Case, that's the keyword inside of the switch. Tomato. Console log this. Tomatoes are equal to 49 cents. Break. We'll talk about that in a second. Case, lime, console log, break. Case, check, console log, break. And then there's a default at the end. If none of these are true, this acts as the else part of the check. Invalid item and break. In this example, since they were papayas, the papayas are equal to $1.29 was printed to the console. So the switch keyword initiates the statement that is followed by the ... which contains the value that each case will compare. In the example, the value or expression of the switch statement is grocery item. So it evaluates whatever is inside the parentheses there, much like a conditional if statement. But the syntax is a little bit shorter. You know, and if you're like they said, if you're doing like 100 different types of items, this will save you a good amount of time versus writing out all of the else-if conditional statements. Inside the block of the curly braces, there are multiple cases. The case keyword checks if the expression matches the specified value that comes after it. The value following the first case is tomato. If the value of grocery item equaled tomato, the case's console log would run. The value of grocery item is papaya, so the third case runs. Now the break keyword, so basically, yeah, the cases are just the else-if statements in a different word. It's just saying case, check, or check. Just think of this as like check tomato, check if it's a lime, check if it's a papaya. Like I said earlier, like it's kind of like a question. Just, is it a papaya? Is it a tomato? Is it a lime? We don't know. We don't know. The break keyword tells the computer to exit the block and not execute any more code or check any other cases inside the code block. Without break keywords, the first matching case will run, but so will every subsequent case regardless of whether or not it matches, including the default. This behavior is different from if-else conditional statements that execute only one block of code. So in other words, this break is, well, if the break wasn't there, I'll explain that first. If the break wasn't there, then it's going to run, all right, case is tomato. It isn't tomato. All of the checks will happen if the breaks are not written in. And so papaya would still run, that would still print, but it's going to take the time to look at every case, right? If it sees that it is a tomato and then runs its code, this break then stops it. So it tells the computer to not check any of the other conditions, any of the other questions of is it a lime, is it a papaya. If it was indeed a tomato, it would see the tomato, see that it was a tomato, run its code for that case, and then stop and not evaluate any of the others. At the end of each switch statement, there is a default statement. If none of the cases are true, then the code in the default statement will run. So like I said, this acts as like the else underneath all the else ifs. All right, let's practice this. Let's write a switch statement to decide what medal to award an athlete. Athlete's final position is already defined at the top of main.js. So start by writing a switch statement with athlete final position as its expression. So first of all, let's write our switch keyword. Switch, we're gonna put in athlete final position as expression. Athlete final position. Okay, that should be all that's needed there. Inside the switch statement, add 3 cases. First case checks for the value of first place. So you do case, put in the string of first place. I think there's a semicolon there, right? There's like a or no, it's a colon. It's not, that's important. There's a colon. They didn't even go over that. So there's a colon instead of a semicolon there, which then goes to the next line. As a console log, you get the gold medal. Okay. Console log, you get the gold medal. Okay, and remember, so after this, is there, I think there's a semicolon after this, yeah, and then there's one after break. Okay, but there's that, the colon is the important thing to remember. So case, colon, the code that runs, if that's true, and then break. Okay, the second case is to check to see if it's second place. Second place, colon, console log, console.log, and you get the silver medal. For the last one, since it's bronze and since it's so similar, what I'm going to do is actually just, after I have this written, is just copy all of these. And a quick way to, if you don't know this, a quick way to select, if you hold Control and Shift at the same time and then click the arrow key, the up arrow key will select a line or most of a line, and the left and right arrow keys will select an entire word. That's how you can sort of select things quickly, at least on a Windows. At least on a Windows, on a PC, yeah. Windows machine. All right, so we're gonna change this to third place. And then you get the bronze medal. Bronze. You get the gold medal, hey, good job, good job. Now add a default statement at the end of the switch statement, or the end of the switch, that uses console log to print no medal awarded. So if you got 4th place or 16th or 242nd, this code will run. So those are very useful if you have like hundreds of different outcomes, but you only care about the first 3 or whatever. In this case, it's the first 3. Then you write a default statement. And did I just do that automatically? I did. I didn't even know that this was there. I just figured that the colon was there. I just figured that it had to be in harmony with the rest. So anyway, so yeah, there's a colon after default. You write default colon, nothing else. Second line will be what you want to run, what code you want to run there. And this was no medal awarded. Yes, no medal awarded. No medal awarded. And then we'll go ahead and add in the quotation marks to make it a string. And lastly, break. Although with the break at the bottom, I don't know if you really need it at the bottom because it's already run everything else. So you don't necessarily need the break here, but whatever. Good practice to make it symmetrical, right? Yeah, let's undo that. Okay. All right, way to go. Here are some major concepts for the conditionals. An if statement checks a condition and will execute a task that if that condition evaluates the true. The if-else statements make binary decisions and execute different code blocks based on the provided condition. If we can add more, conditions using else-if statements. Comparison operators, including all of those symbols, can compare 2 values. The logical and operator, or and, checks if both provided expressions are truthy. So there was another way for the and operator. You don't just have to use Okay, hold on. I'm going to look up what these are called because I don't remember. What is this called? What is this symbol called? Symbol. Hold on. I'm educating myself here. Oh, it is the ampersand. No, that was right. Wait, what is the @ symbol called? I mean, I would just call it the @ sign. But whatever, that probably has a fancy name too. Anyway, the double ampersands can be used as the AND operator, or AND can be used as that operator as well. So with that, you would just write in like, say if, you know, puppies is equal to happy and I think just like, oh wait, do you have to put quotes in it? No, because that makes it a string. I'm not sure. They didn't really show us how to do that, how to type in the AND instead of the operator there, but it looks like what they're saying is that you can use either, but just go ahead and use the double ampersands. It's kind of faster anyway. So double ampersands, double pipes, or the bang operator, which is just an exclamation point. So that's for AND, or, and, not operators respectively. The ternary operator is shorthand to simplify concise if-else statements. That was the question mark. So basically, like, you'd write in conditional, conditional before it, what it checks, and then code that runs if true. Ignore what's happening as far as the colors go. I'm just literally writing out what it does. Else, what happens? Code that runs if false. And that's basically the ternary operator logic is just that. I'll just go ahead and make this a comment so it looks better there. Yeah, so and then a switch statement can be used to simplify the process of writing multiple else if statements. And the break keyword stops the remaining cases from being checked and executed in a switch statement. Alrighty, moving on. Conditional statements quiz. See if we can do this. See if we can ace this. What will the code block log to the console? Let weather equal spring. Let clothing choice equal nothing. Then it checks through spring, summer, fall, winter. Console log clothing choice. Okay, so it's not checking the variable that is true. So if weather equals spring, console log clothing choice. So it's going to be spring. So put on your rain boots is this. But then it's going to console log nothing, right? This is like, yeah, just nothing. So it's going to be put on your rain boots because the season or the weather is spring. What will the following code log to the console? If need tacos equals true. If need tacos is true, then console log finding tacos. Else console log keep on keeping on. Well, it is true, so we will be finding some tacos. Finding some tacos at Taco Bell or Del Taco or any other taco chain. Which of the following variables contains a truthy value? So let var, so it's actually, yeah, this is funny. So this is a Boolean, right? So even though this is like actual data, I don't know, like an actual value that's useful, it is not actually truthy, right? Because it's a Boolean. Even the Boolean of true is not, wait, is the Boolean of true truthy? I guess it would be, yeah. But false is falsy, obviously. Empty strings are falsy, 0 is falsy, so the only one that's truthy is the string that is falsy, right? It's the string that is falsy. Yeah. Non-empty strings are truthy, even if they say false. This statement is false. How would you properly refactor this code? Using the ternary operator. Okay, so if walk signal equals walk, console log you may walk, else this. So we want our conditional check, right? So walk signal is equal to walk, question mark, console log you may walk, colon, and then the else statement. I think the first one's correct. I'm not gonna look at any of the others. I think the first one's correct. To make this statement valid, what operator belongs to the space below? Let's see, coin heads. So you want to check is equal to. The single equal sign, remember that is to assign variables. Very important. That is to assign variables or assign anything. It's like to assign that. Assign a value to a variable. This, I have no idea what a colon equal sign is. I don't know that that's anything. It's not either the single or the triple, because the single again is the assignment. So it is indeed the triple equal sign. What will the code block run? What will the code block log to the console? All right, let's see. So runtime and run distance, two variables here. So if runtime is less than or equal to 30 and run distance is greater than 3.5, console log this. So let's see, that's not true because that doesn't evaluate to truthy, because one of the statements is false because run distance is equal to 3.5. It's not greater than. Oh, and actually runtime is also false because it's not less than or equal to 30. So that wouldn't run. Let's see, runtime greater than or equal to? Greater than or equal to 30. That's true. And then run distance is less than or equal to 3. This is false, so then it would evaluate to falsy. Runtime greater than 30, that's true. Run distance greater than 3, it would log this. It would log nice workout because we have 35 and, oh, wait a second. Oh yeah, and it's an or statement. So yeah, it would be nice workout, man. Nice workout. Okie doke. What will the code block log to the console? Grocery items. We're going to the store. Apple. So we want to see the default because the apple is not listed in the case using a switch keyword there. The switch conditional. Okay, so this is invalid. The apple is an invalid item. I am very, very sorry to say. Apples are invalid. If is hungry equals true, which of the following expressions evaluates the true? Is hungry is not equal to false? Yes, indeed. Not is hungry is equal to true? No, because is hungry is equal to false. Not is hungry. This doesn't make sense. Not, it is not false because it is indeed true. Okay, log bear to the console. If translate this to JavaScript. If is furry is true and weight is over 100 pounds. It's a bear. Okay, let's see here. What does this for us? So I'm gonna skip that one. Not is furry. Yeah. If is furry and weight is over 100 pounds, it's gonna be this one because both of these statements are true. Using the and operator, it evaluates both of them, and the result is true. So, bear. What is the general purpose of a conditional statement? Well, they answer yes or no questions, yeah. They do, evaluate code as either true or false. That's kind of what happens in the middle of them, sort of. I'm going to say yes or no questions, right? Capable of make all computers. No, it's true or false. Okay, so conditional statements can be more complicated questions with two or more conditions. Okay, yeah, but each of those conditions is also going to be binary, right? Perhaps not. You could have like, you could have 3 different. Yeah. Okay. We'll redo the quiz then because we got one incorrect. I did not understand completely the binary yes or no versus the more complicated questions with more than 2 conditions. I mean, yeah, the structure of it's more complicated. All right, no, we need to go back to that quiz. We're gonna ace it. We're gonna ace that quiz. We'll just run through it. Run through it quickly now. What? No. Start next. Okay, I think we have to start the next informational first. This one is actually a chapter in a book that they link you to. I've read that in my own time, but I won't do that here. Take a while. Let's go to the syllabus. Let's go back to that quiz. Yeah. Back to that conditional statements quiz. No, it won't let. It will not let me retake it. Wow. Is that it? Can we? Or did I miss that? Did I miss that here? Retake. Oh, it's over here. It's the little link. Okay, let's try to do this quickly. So the apple was invalid, right? Invalid apple. The runtime run distance. It's going to be nice workout. Conditional statements. That's the one that tripped me up earlier. Is for a. So we need the or statement. This one. Not or, but and. We need the and. Spring, so it was spring, so put on your rain boots. Is hungry is not equal to false. This one was the string of false. We are finding tacos because it's true. We need tacos. The ternary operator, so I think it was just the first one, but they might have mixed it up. So console log, you may walk, the ternary operator. Boom. Boom. I think it's still the first one here. Yeah. First one. This one is going to be triple equal sign. Sweet. All right. Easy enough. Moving on to the project. Let's skip past that chapter and go to Magic 8 Ball, the Magic 8 Ball project. All right, you've learned a powerful tool in JavaScript, control flow. It's so powerful, in fact, that it can be used to tell someone's fortune. So basically, control flow, trying to put it concisely, but yet not like not inaccurately. Control flow is essentially how the computer you're working with reads the code and like how the logic of it flows, right? So if it flows from variables into a conditional, which checks the variables, right? Which then is fed into a function depending on the result of the conditional, etc., etc. We'll get into a whole bunch more of it later, but essentially it's just like the logic of it, right? It's the control flow. In this project, we will build a Magic 8 Ball using control flow in JavaScript. The user will be able to input a question, and then our program will output a random fortune. If you get stuck during this project or would like to see an experienced developer work through it, get unstuck to see a project walkthrough video. All right, let's see if we can do this. In the first line, define a variable called username that is set to an empty string. So let's do let username equal nothing, empty string. If the user wants, they can enter their name between the quotation marks. Okay. So that one's done. Below this variable, create a ternary expression that decides what to do if the user enters a name or not. If the user enters a name like Jane, use the string interpolation to log hello, Jane, to the console. Otherwise, simply log hello. Okay. So a couple things here, ternary expression, right? So we want our conditional check to be first. So what we are checking is, see if username is filled or not, right? So simply just write username. This will check to see if that variable is containing a truthy value. Question mark. What happens if it is indeed true? The user enters a name. So it'll console log a string, but instead of using a string, we're going to use, or the single quotations, we're going to use backticks because we're going to interpolate, which we learned this last time, interpolate the variable. So we're going to say hello, but then in order to add in the variable as part of the string, we need a lovely little $sign, and then the, not that, that is... As further down the road, braces. Need the braces for the curly braces, that is, the brackets for the username. username. Hello, username. After this, we put the colon to provide an else condition. We will log, console log, hello. And this one we can simply use the single quotations for and do that. So if we run it now, it'll simply log hello because no username is set. All right, create a variable named user question. The value of the variable should be a string that is equal to the question the user wants to ask the magic 8-ball. So let's go ahead and put our variables. I like putting our variables together. Let user question equal, and then this is also going to be an empty string for now. It didn't tell us what to put in there, but this is going to be the question that they ask the 8-ball. Write a console log for the user question, stating that what was asked. You can include the user's name in the console log statement if you wish. Okay, so underneath this bit, we're going to have a console log of the user's name. So let's do the backticks on this one. We're going to interpolate and start with the user's name, like so. Username. And so I'm gonna put a little colon there just to say that like this person is saying or is asking the question. We're then going to go ahead and put in like quotation marks to make it like speech, right? Like a dialogue. And to also show that you can put inside of the backticks, you can put quotation marks and it's just fine. It doesn't add like weird multiple strings or whatever. It's all just part of the same one. So let's see. So the username is asking the question, right? So this is going to be another $, curly braces. This is going to be user question in this one. User question, like that. And I think that's it, because inside the user question there will be a question mark. Okay. We need to generate a random number between 0 and 7. Hey, I remember this one. Create another variable and name it random number. Set it equal to this expression, which uses the two methods, mathFloor and mathRandom, from the math library. I remember that, but specifically they want us to set it to 8. So we'll go ahead and do that. In the last session of CodeCademy, we learned about the mathFloor and mathRandom. In this case, we're setting a variable to that. So math, we need to have an equal sign there. Equals math.floor, and then math.random. And that will provide for us a random number multiplied by a factor of 8. So mathRandom provides a random number between 0 and 1. Whatever that value is then multiplied by 8, and then whatever that value is rounded down, regardless if it's closer to the next highest integer. So say like it came up with like 5.99, right? If this equated to 5.99, the mathFloor would take a look at that and say, okay, we're just going to truncate the 99 and make it a 5, right? So just ignores any of the decimal places. Just makes it a single integer. All right, create one variable and named 8-ball. Set it equal to an empty string. Okay, so let's do that. We will save a value to this variable in the next steps, depending on the value of a random number. All right, so let 8-ball equal to emptiness. Oh, and let's put our good practice semicolon in. Is a good boy. We need to create a control flow that takes the random number we made in step 5 and then assigns 8-ball to a reply that a magic 8-ball would return. think about using if-else or switch statements. Here are 8 magic 8-ball phrases that we'd like to save to the variable 8-ball. So these are all the phrases they want us to save. If the random number is equal to 0, then save an answer to the 8-ball variable. If the random number is 1, then save the next answer, and so on. If you're feeling creative, make your own responses. Okay, so I think we'll do a switch for this. There's also ways later that they'll teach us how to do a loop function, a loop within a function, but those, yeah, we'll get to those later. For now, we'll use the switch statement. So after the user question, then we'll put it down here. Let's see. So we need basically assigns an 8-ball to reply to a reply that a magic 8-ball would return. Step 5. So if random number, just talking it through first. Talking it through helps us, like, okay, so if the random number is equal to 0, then it will give us the first value. If it's equal to 1, it will give us the second, and so on. So inside of the switch statement, we'd say case of random number evaluates to 0, then give the first reply. So we need switch, oh, not capital, just the keyword switch. Switch, it's going to evaluate random number, yeah? And with this one, hold on, if this is the case of, yeah, okay, so yeah, random number, we'll put down random number. Then curly braces, case 1, or case 0 rather, case, I think you can just put 0. I think that's fine. You just put 0, case 0, colon, put down here console.log, and then their first statement, which is going to be it is certain. It is certain. Remember to add in your breaks. This is then going to be, I'm going to go ahead and copy this 7 times over, and then we'll go ahead and change. Oh, trying to get this in line here. There we go. Trying to make it so that it only copies what I need it to. Let's see if we do this. There we go. Okay, it's still indenting that bit. Oh well. Oh well, you tried. You tried. Let's see if it does this though. Copy this. Bring this down. There we go. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. So for case number 1, this will change. The output will change to it is decidedly so. So I'll do it is decidedly so. Next one will be reply hazy, try again. And this is going to be for case number 2. Case 2, reply hazy again. And remember, the cases are referring to the output of the random number calculation. So the random number equals something between 0 and 8. And so it's checking that, and depending on the result, it will give us these replies. All right, next one for case 3. If random number is equal to 3, we say we cannot predict the outcome now. Get rid of that extra quotation. Don't need that extra bit there. All right, case number 4. I'll go ahead and put these numbers in. 5, 6, 7. There we go. All right, for case number 4, we say no, don't count on it. Don't count on it, my dude. My sources say no. Be for 5. Output, not so good. And signs point to yes. Okay, with all of that together, let's see if it works. One thing that we didn't do, though, that we must do. So instead of doing it this way, what we missed, the glaring error here is that 8-ball. 8-ball is the thing we want to change, yeah? So if we just console log all those replies, sure, that might work, but what we want to do is actually change the 8-ball to assign that a different value than just the empty string. So what we're going to do, instead of the console log, and if you've been following along with me, I apologize somewhat, but this is going to sort of show you a different way, the way that they want it done. So 8 and I would rather have it done this way anyway. 8-ball equals, yeah? 8-ball equals it is certain, and then so you console log the 8-ball, right? So 8-ball becomes that. And then so at the end of all of this, outside of the switch statement, you just console log 8-ball. And then no matter what it is inside of here, it's going to console log it, right? So let's go ahead and change this around, and, or I guess I'll just, I'm trying to think of the fastest way to change this, but we'll go ahead and just do it this way. So it is certain, change this one along the way. It is certain. It is all certain. It's totally certain. We'll go ahead and run that to show that it is indeed certain. Oh, just reloaded the page there. Okay, let's try that again. All right, and let's go ahead and populate our responses here. It is certain. It is decidedly so. So we need our decidedly so. We need our reply hazy. Cannot predict now. Do not count on it. I wonder if that's true, like that with 8-balls, there are only 8 responses. I've never thought about that. It'd make intuitive sense. Personally, I would like program so many different responses in there. Make 100 different 8-ball responses. That'd make it way more fun. Like why do 8-balls only have so few responses? All right, so something's off here. Oh, Cosnol log. Yeah, that's great. It's a different programming language. Wait, where is that? That's not there. I did it twice. Oh, I did it up here too. Cosnol. Signs point to yes, but wait a second. So this is perhaps more complicated than we should talk about right now. But so it's running this code. It's running the console log of the 8-ball, and it's showing signs point to yes. So what's going to happen is as you run it over and over again, this this bottom line is going to change, but it's still going to print the empty. Wait, that's the username. Never mind. That's the username. We need to actually put a username in, because we're console logging this. Okay, this needs to be. This actually needs to be contained within an if statement, so that if there is no username, this doesn't appear. In fact, all of this should be contained within like the else part of an if statement if there is a username. It console logs hello. Or sorry, it console logs hello the username, and then it runs the rest. And if there isn't one, it just console logs hello and that's it. Or hello, please input a username. We won't get that detailed with it. But what I do want to do is change this to be user question. So again, just the ternary operator, right? So if username is truthy, then it will log this, and if it is not, and I kind of just want it to be an empty string. Just nothing, right? Console log. But I don't want it to console log that. I literally just want it to do nothing. So can we do that? Can we just put an empty string there? What happens if we do that? Yeah. Okay, so if you wanted to do nothing with the else statement, just for the ternary operator, just put in an empty string. So hello, it is decidedly so. Yeah, see, the person hasn't put in a question either, so this doesn't make sense of the 8-ball runs. But anyway, we're gonna move on. We could make this a little bit cleaner, but we're gonna move on for the sake of simplicity. So write a console log to print the magic 8-ball's answer, the value of the 8-ball variable. So we did that at the bottom, right? And this is kind of what it was leading you to. You could have done it the other way, where you console logged it all within the switch, but instead, you assign the variable here, and then you console log it outside. Yeah, and depending on the situation, it could be better practice to do it that way. You could put it inside. It just depends. Run your program a few times to see the random results that appear in the console. If you want extra practice, if you started with a switch statement, convert it to if or else statements. If you started with the if else statements, convert it to a switch statement. Well, we can do that. I'll do it with one and then just skip, because it's just the same. You know, just like this. It's just like 3 lines of code with a little bit of difference in the results, and then repeat, right? But yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll comment this out. Oh, and if you didn't know, CodeCademy has these little arrows that can condense conditional statements, or I think they appear for functions too. But you can condense that. So then, if you want to comment out something that's 100 lines of code long, you can do it this way. And remember, we have to do a multi-line comment just because of that little curly brace at the bottom. So we'll do the multi-line comment, which is the asterisk and then / comment that out so that that code will not run. We'll go ahead and put an if-else statement here. We'll still check the same random number variable and have it be, let's go ahead and do this. So if random number, we need to have this see if it evaluates to 0. If it does, then you console log, not console, console log, and then of course, like you just input all the statements that they gave you, right? So console log is, oops, let's try to copy that over again. Yeah, I could just write it in the time that it takes me to copy it over. There we go. Console log, it is certain. And then you'd add an else if random number evaluates to 1 is equal to 1. But yeah, so this is a little more work to do if you just do the else if statements all the way down. So with like lists like this, switches are more condensed, takes a little bit less time to do. Else if random number equals 1 is, we're going to use the it is decidedly so. And we'll probably call it good there because for the conditionals here, console.log. Oh yeah, one more tip, I mentioned it last time, but if you select everything, or whatever you select in here, it will, if you add in parentheses, if you press shift and add in the left parenthesis, it will then give you the right parenthesis at the end of whatever you selected. So I selected the whole phrase of it is decidedly so, and then pressed shift and left parenthesis, and then that added a right parenthesis on at the end of the statement. It's really handy, especially if you have a long something or other that you want to put in parentheses, or if you're missing one, you find it later and you've got to select it all at a parenthesis there. Anyway, that's helpful if you miss them. Nice little shortcut. That also works with the quotations or the backticks. All right, so it is decidedly so, right? Number, and since we did not program in all the numbers, what I'm going to do is just put in an else statement and console log, and then just put in, you know, choose your own destiny. Choose your own destiny. There we go. So most of the time, the 8-ball is going to tell you to choose your own destiny, but sometimes it'll say it is certain. But sometimes it'll say is decidedly so. Let's see how many times it takes to get there. There it is. There was one. Okay, so that's the structure. If you wanted to do an if-else statement code block for that instead of the switch. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, I guess you have to keep it in proper alignment if you want the whole thing to be condensed. But anyway, we will go ahead and comment that out. Other way, / and asterisk, and then asterisk and /. And then bring our switch statement back because that is the complete one. Right. Go ahead and pull this down, see all of our code there. Console log, the 8-ball cannot predict now. It is certain. Signs point to yes. So it seems to be working just fine. And with that, we have programmed an 8-ball with only 8 responses, but an 8-ball nonetheless. Okay, let's go ahead and tick that box. What box got unticked? Oh, number 5. Okay. Sometimes if you, totally random thing, sometimes if you hover or your cursor is already selecting the instructions on the side and then you hit enter, it will deselect that. Sometimes you have to go back and click them again just for the projects. But we are moving on to race day project. All right, CodeCademy's annual race is just around the corner. This year, we have a lot of participants. You have been hired to write a program that will register runners for the race and give them instructions on race day. As a timeline, registration would look like this: adult and registered early, adult and registered late, and all youth. Here's how our registration works. There are adult runners over 18 years of age and youth runners under 18 years of age. They can register early or late. Runners are assigned a race number and start time based on their age and registration. The race number, early adults receive a race number at or above 1,000, and all others receive a number below 1,000. The start time, adult registrants run at 9:30 or 11. Early adults run at 9:30, late adults run at 11. Youth registrants run at 12:30, regardless of registration. But we didn't plan for runners that are exactly 18. We'll handle that by the end of the project. Okay, so let's get started here. Race numbers are assigned randomly. We've provided the necessary code at the top of the file. So they first put in a variable. They declared a race number variable, and then did our mathfloor math random, and then multiplied the result by 1,000. So that way, the race number will be assigned anything between 0 and 1,000. So that's going to be for all of the early adults. Check off this task after reading that line. You can read the hint if you want to learn how it works. So we did that in the last project, assigned, or rather, put down a math random method. All right, create a variable that indicates whether a runner registered early or not. Set it equal to a Boolean value. You'll change this later as you test different runner conditions. Okay, so let's do that. So let early, right? Or let's say let punctual, right? Let punctual equal true. True. Wow. True. There we go. Okay. create a variable for the runner's age and set it equal to a number. Let age equal 23. Okay. Create a control flow statement that checks whether the runner is an adult and registered early. If, so age, right? If age is greater than 18, and early, so punctual is true, punctual is true. And remember, when you're using like comparisons within a conditional, you have to use the triple equal sign. So equals true, because if you use the single, it'll reassign the value, or try to at least reassign the variable. Okay, so that's looking to see if they're an adult and they were punctual. Add 1000 to their race number if this is true. So then race number plus equals, right? So plus equals 1000. Okay. Create a separate control flow statement below the first, starting with if again. This statement will check age and registration time to determine race time. For runners over 18 who register early, log a statement to the console telling them that they will race at 9:30. Include their race number. Okay, so they want us to create a second conditional. If the age and registration time determine race time. Okay. Register early, log a statement. Interesting. I don't know why they wouldn't just try to do this in one conditional, but anyway, we'll do it this way. Okay, so we're basically going to write the same check, the same conditional check. So let's check this here, and then we'll console log. I guess because it's like, I don't know why they didn't just put that in there. Telling them that they'll race at 9:30, include their race number. So console log backticks, because we'll use a variable interpolation here. They will race at 9:30. So your include their race number, like tell them, yeah, just like say your race number is, or hold on, I did that backwards. We're not going to put the variable there. It's just your race number is race number. So that variable. Your race number is race number. And your race will start, or your race will start at 9:30. 9:30 a.m. because we're not racing in the dark. 9:30 a.m. Oops. Your race number is 1244. Your race will start at 9:30. Okay. Late adults run at 11. Since we already checked for early adults, we can write a statement like this. Else if runner is over 18 and did not register early, then race will begin at 11. Within that, log a string to the console telling them that they will race at 11, include their race number. Okay, so pretty simple. Else if, right? Else if, and then we want to say that if they're over 18 but their punctuality is non-existent. They are not punctual. They did not register early. So over 18. Whoa, over 18. And punctual evaluates to false. this part will be almost the same, except the time is changing. So this will be at 11. So console log, erase will start at 9:30. So it's just going to show us, if we run this a couple times, it's just going to show us that the punctual ones, right? So then, oh, I see why they separated this, because, yeah, that makes sense. So the race number is being added whether they're punctual or not. Wait, I think it's just early adults, right? Early adults will receive a race number above 1,000. There also needs to be an else if statement here. I don't know if they'll, yeah, late adults run at 11. Youth registrants run at 12:30 regardless of registration. For people under 18, log a statement to the console telling them that they will race at 12:30, include the race number. So essentially, take this block, right? This little block, copy it down, and switch the 18, or switch this comparator, or sorry, operator, right? Comparison operator to a less than. If the age is less than 18, and it doesn't matter whether they were early registrants or not, so you can just get rid of that and check there. Okay, so let's check that off for, we gotta change the time though. This is 12:30, 12:30, not AM though, this is PM. Oh, what did I missed a little curly brace. Let's put that down here. Enter different combinations of values for the two variables you created and run your code several times. Verify that the correct statements are printing to the console. Okay, so we can do that, but what will happen is that the race will always begin at 9:30 because it's not showing, or rather the punctuality is always true. So if we change this to false, then your race number is 9:16. Your race will begin at 11. Yes, okay, great. Let's make this so that it's a 16-year-old running. Your race number is 660. Your race will begin at 12:30. Perfect, it's working. All right, don't forget about runners exactly 18 years old. Add an else statement that logs the statement of the console telling the runner to see the registration desk. Yes, as is the case with many a time where you're like, yeah, so people older than 18 and people younger than 18. What about people exactly 18? Less than or equal to? What does that mean, you know? 18 or under is basically what you need to say for the youth, or 18 or older. All right, so else. And the nice thing about the else is that the only thing that is else is 18, because we wrote in anything above or below. All right. So let's do console log. Console log. Please see the registration desk. Please see the registration desk. So now if we change our age to exactly 18, it doesn't matter whether they're punctual or not, please see the registration desk. And with that, we set up a little system to tell us, to give us race numbers and when the race time would start. Say if you were sending an email to someone, this would be helpful, because then you could say, okay, so instead of having to write the emails for everyone, just have a form email and then write this little bit of code that gives them the time and then a random race number. Super easy, and you could do that with literally just this. Then of course you'd have to write the email and do all that, but yeah. All right. That is the end of JavaScript Conditionals. Oh, this will be fun. So next time, I'll end the stream here, but next time we'll go ahead and start coding Business Outfitted Bob, a little browser game that they give you. It's kind of dorky, but it's a good starter. All that we know now, from CodeCademy is the intro to JavaScript. You know, how to console log, what conditionals are, ternary operators, very, very simple foundational things, but they are very powerful nonetheless, and you can do a lot with them even now. So we'll do that. We will explore that tomorrow with Business Outfitted Bob. And for now, I hope you enjoyed this. Any of you who tuned in and worked along with me, or just saw me stumble around until I got it. I'm just a learner too, not a guru or a teacher, but I like to teach myself as we go along, and hopefully you can learn something too. But anyway, have a good day or night wherever you are in the world, and I will see you next time. Peace.